Hello, and welcome to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast. I'm Erin DeVos, and I'll be your host for this season. Join us for insightful interviews that explore the work of up-and-coming independent filmmakers from all over the world. If you're passionate about film and keen to learning about the creative process from the future cinema greats, this podcast is a must-listen for you. Our mission is to provide listeners with the engaging and informative conversations about successful and innovative films, including features, shorts, documentaries, animation, and web series from across the globe. The DCIFF Film Chat Podcast is a unique opportunity for independent filmmakers to have their voices heard in a way no other film festival can provide. You can listen to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast on all podcast platforms or visit our website at DCIFF-indie.org/DCIFF-podcast. Thank you. Welcome, Desmond, to the DCFF Film Chat Podcast. We're really thrilled to have you here today and as well as join us at DCIFF 2025. Desmond is the director for SPELONK, which is premiering at our festival this year and will be showcased on Saturday, February 15th. So again, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to have you here. And yeah, just to start things off, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and as well as your film?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background on myself. I'm originally from South Africa. As you can hear, the accent is slightly different than a lot of Americans. I've been making films internationally now 24 years. Absolute love for storytelling. Where I grew up, I always say Africa, storytelling is part of our blood. That's how we communicate, is we tell stories. So I've been honored to be included in this family of storytellers internationally on films we've worked on. Films like Planet of the Shark, some international productions we've done with all the crazy shark films, to South African cinema films, TV films, and then obviously our own independent films. And Spelonk was one of these creative endeavors that we really wanted to take on and push what we can do with storytelling. And very excited now to showcase this internationally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, we're excited too, and to be able to, dive into talk about like the elements of your film and, the creative process. In terms of, yeah, so thinking about Spelunk and the settings, it's very futuristic. I have seen the film and I think it's really well done, and especially when it comes to like the effects and the acting. So I think overall, like it really puts in this perspective of, being like futuristic and where it is. A little bit about the plot too is, so it's based in, I know it's futuristic. I'm trying to remember the year right
It's like
now.
2044.
Oh, 2024.
Yeah, so not too far so that we can all live to see it.
Yes, absolutely. It was that intentional to have it
Yeah,
that way?
so what was interesting, we actually started writing it like as a short film. It got selected at a very big festival in South Africa as a script in development called the Silver Scatum. And then there we realized it's a story that we really enjoyed, and we didn't want to do it just as a short. So it went on to Berlin All Talents, and we kind of continued developing it to where we actually have a book that's published through Barnes and Nobles and a few other places with the same title. And then we had to make we call it the origin story. So episode one of this series of films. And yeah, that's kind of where it started. Set in South Africa, Cape Town. Intentionally, I wanted it to be not too far so people literally can feel like, what if this is in 10, 20 years from now? Not that we feel it's our kids and grandkids' problem, but that the story of Spelonk could be something that play out in our own lifetime.
Yeah, and I love that, preset to it because, a lot of these, futuristic type films are way in advance or even generations ahead of us. So to
Yeah.
feel, the sense of being so close, like in time, like, it's less than what, 20 years, that this is based in. So yeah, no, it's very chilling in that way to understand or kind of even see in your film. And the preface of it is that the world is running out of fresh water too.
Yeah.
So that also is also terrifying, because it in ways like it can feel real, like that could
Yeah.
actually happen. So
Definitely. And if you see, like, for example, and we always said not in storytelling, you always often go to what if this happens, what if that happens. But when we wrote this, we kind of went in a different direction. We said, what if we don't? So what if we don't look after our water resources? What if we don't, like, kind of, it creates a different scenario, not just what if, which kind of makes us part of the story in a way. And that's why I wanted it to be so close to now. So if you look at, for example, the wildfires that happens in California, that happens in Canada, South Africa, literally Cape Town had 20 days of drinking water left while we started making the film. We were busy writing it, and then the world kind of became even more alive because we were like, wow, this is crazy. What will society go to when one of your most required necessary resources is literally cut off? And I think that made it very real. It didn't make it just like a nice, crazy, bounty hunting, apocalyptic story. Like a lot of this, it doesn't feel real. It actually made it feel like, wow, but this could be happening in our own backyard.
Mhm. Oh, definitely. And which makes me think about the actual setting of the film too. Like, was it all filmed in South Africa
Yeah.
or the
All of it.
origination?
All of it, yeah. We went on various locations and we kind of wanted to mix between filming a lot of things we filmed really in Cape Town. I think if we filmed a lot of it during COVID, it would have been amazing and easy because the streets would be empty. But we started filming pre-COVID, and then obviously everything kind of got kept back with the film. Cinemas were closed down and the world kind of had to restart slowly. But it gave us a lot of time to neaten up and finalize a few great things on the film, rework the 5.1 surround sound. So it was a great time to kind of put the whole film, and specifically because we have two completely separate language versions, filmed in English, filmed in Afrikaans with two completely separate post-production music. So it's really two separate films. It looks different, even the sequences are different. So that was a lot of fun just to have that playground and see how is the film different for myself, being English and Afrikaans. I know when I speak my own language, I speak different, my intonation is different, and seeing the actors carrying the same story in different languages was really interesting. And then for the post production teams to kind of take that on.
Yeah. No, that brings another point too that we had even talked about like before we had hopped onto the podcast
Yeah,
about the different naming conventions and kind of really
yeah.
identifying that audience internationally. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
It's a you see, for example, in a country like South Africa, where I'm from, the films that normally did well in cinema is your rom coms, your Adam Sandler, your romantic movies, and then you have the big American blockbusters. And the rest of the films, like for example, South African sci-fi film, there was very little space for films like that. Firstly, it's a difficult genre to do, and although I love that, I love either going to the past. So we're working on a TV series that is set in '69 and it's an earthquake story, or I love going to the future, just because I'm very art based. So I love building sets, burning sets, making costumes, like making worlds come alive. So with this, it was very interesting to explore a film that is firstly difficult to make. People are like, it's not a popcorn movie in a way that it's like a rom com. Adam Sandler, you go on Valentine's Day, watch it, and it's an easy sell.
Mhm.
But to push it and say, how do we make this film? How do we create this world? How do we bring it alive? And specifically for a South African film now to start showing on an international level, we've got our international US based distributor, major sci fi distributor. So it's amazing and exciting to kind of have that lined up for the process of the film and to see, wow, like even if you're from a country such as South Africa or anywhere in the world, you can make stories that you believe in creatively done well and push it even beyond your own boundaries of your country.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's awesome like to hear about the distribution too and the amount of interest because I feel with the Spelunka like in a way like reminded me of like kind of the world of Star Wars and as well as Dune more so
Yeah.
relatably. And I'm kind of thinking about like the visuals to that. Like what ultimately drew or how did you draw like inspiration like for that type of setting?
And I'll speak about it as the first one of the films we want to make with this.
Mhm.
It was a combination of firstly looking at our own stories in South Africa, our language, our culture. So even in the what I call tribes, the different groups that was in Spelonk, we wanted to have an authentic South African feel without stereotypically showing it. So a lot of times, if you look at films and they show Africa, they show China, they show Russia, they show places outside US, there's a very stereotypical image created. So I wanted to have an authentic voice coming from South Africa. So even the language, even the character names, things like that, it's different. and being true to that. So, and the settings themselves as well. We wanted to make sure that Cape Town is a central character in the story. It's not just like a one-liner. So we had a lot of sequences filmed in Cape Town City where you see Cape Town being destroyed, that you see the city literally broken down. And I think that that kind of was essential thing for me. I wanted to make a sci-fi apocalyptic film in South Africa, in Cape Town. It reflects a lot about our own culture, but yet to have an international feeling so that people who are in America don't feel this is too deep in culture that they can't watch it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's really well said, and I feel, yeah, like even like in this film, it kind of takes you like to other places, like to leave that like up to imagination, but importantly, kind of like where the
Yeah.
actual setting is. So that's cool. And yeah, I guess a little bit more about you too. Like, what drew you like into filmmaking, and have you always like explored more of like the sci-fi type of world?
I think for me, it's always about the created world. So for me, it
Mm.
started as a young boy already going to theater, seeing a black box coming alive. And I was like, wow, this world comes alive with a few things running around on stage and people moving things. And you're like, wow, there's a whole imaginary world. And I'm on this journey with these actors and a few props and curtains. And that was exciting. In South Africa, originally, to go into the film industry was not something you could just study like here in America at New York Film School or something, and you just go into it. So I've started working on film sets already at age 15, making coffee, rolling cables, learning
Oh wow.
while because there wasn't a way to study it. And I traveled for 1 year with a theater group where we traveled all across South Africa doing drama productions. I had long curly hair and I played in a rock band. And I just loved stories. I wanted to be involved. And the next year, they opened the first film school and I was there. So I studied directing and I continued into my master's in writing. And I just always loved stories. So whether we had to do oral presentations for class, I would film it on a VHS, cut it together, and go show it with my friends. And yeah, I just always wanted to be involved in stories. And regarding to your question with it being sci-fi, it's not specific to that. It's for me, whether it is, for example, some of the other films we've done that was more to the drama side of it. It's really just it's creating a story that can touch people's hearts in a setting that you want to go along with the journey. So whether it is, for example, our new film Tilbach Earthquake or called Earth Tears, that is an epic drama set in Tilbach about an earthquake that really happened, one of the only earthquakes in South Africa, or it is Spelonk, which is an apocalyptic sci-fi story. I love creating that world, as I mentioned. For me, I've always loved Tim Burton, that style of directors where the world is created and you go like Dune. I love those settings. You look at it and you're like, wow, this is a world that is exciting.
Hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And even as you were chatting, like it makes me think of how, well, not only just how passionate you are, like to be able to, really start your way into the industry too, like,
Yeah.
being able to build and always just having that passion to create. It's such a driver. And I really love to hear that because it really draws the inspiration, but also like the motivation for you to, build into your career.
Yeah, it's more, as I always say, depend. Every film you do has a different reason. So some films you make, I always say, like you make one that's for the popcorn. It's like an easy selling film. You might make one that you really like. This is your soul film. Like I'm busy at this stage filming a series called 24 that I'm discovering and filming artists all around the world. I've been to Norway end of last year filming some very famous illustrators, going to Colombia filming an animator, just discovering this world of artists, well-known and acclaimed artists around the world, and seeing like how do they live, what do they do with their passion. One of the ones I filmed, I went and traveled on some of the film sets that was used in Northman. So the person involved helped them keep it authentic in building the sets and costumes. So I was dressed up in full Viking costume, meeting people with burning lanterns, and it's just discovering what I love in film is story creation, the art of being an artist. And in this documentary series we're doing, it's really that. It's discovering the artist and the art and kind of how that comes together. How do people make a living out of it? How do they think? How do they what happens with their family? So it's a love of art that really drives what I do, whether it's a documentary or it's a Spelonk crazy film.
Mhm. Yeah, your passion and, like, draw for it is really what's speaking to me, and also, like, even with this particular project, like, Spelunk, would you say like it's one of your bigger productions? And also, is there future projects that you're working on too?
Yeah, we have a few. So definitely, I've got this one called 24, which is our upcoming. We're doing 24 episodes, which showcases these artists' lives and their passion in the art, but non-talking head documentary. So you're never going to see someone sitting in front like talking. It's filmed in the same way as I do commercials. So we're really filming it as stories, but showcasing in these artists' lives and their art and things like that. And it's really exciting. We've got the book. It's out. It's called Tulbach Earthquake. It's also already at Barnes and Nobles. That's our next TV series that I'm working on that I'm very excited about because it's set in apartheid South Africa. So people are literally living in the same community but worlds apart, separated by skin color, separated by wealth, separated by other things. And then the earthquake literally throws them together. And what they thought was issues and problems, all of a sudden they realize there's something bigger than their own issues. And people are working together. So I love like stories that you take something home, but not preachy that you have to, push a message down there. You're going on the ride with the story, and you take a question with you that I hope the audience, the same as Belong. I'm taking people on an epic ride, and I hope they get to carry a question or a concept with them afterwards.
Mm. Yeah, no, I love that. And it draws like, yeah, the inspiration of like the different types of work that you have drawn into and just being able to, yeah, have it come to full circle and really embrace the, the culture ultimately of like South Africa. That's what it just really sounds like that I'm hearing
Yeah,
from
but
you.
also America. We are working on a 1920s epic story that we want to set here in
Oh,
that
well,
Great Gatsby era. But I just want it to be here long enough that I can kind of write for American stories
mhm,
and kind of have enough filmmakers and people that I feel is the right key people. I always will have a love between doing films between South Africa and America, and if I can find the right bridge for that type of co-productions, that's amazing.
mhm,
Um, so I definitely think there will be soon a film that will film, and as we already have a story in the making, in the writing process, that will be set in like Frostburg, Allegheny County, Cumberland, America,
mhm.
the big railway era, 1920s. Like I said, Great Gatsby era. Then again, it's like costumes, hair, trains, styling, aging. It's much more difficult making a film where you go to the past or the future because
Yeah.
obviously there's cost concerns. There's like you need to take away all the modern science, but that makes it so exciting as a filmmaker that you taking people to this new world
Mhm.
or old world reimagined.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely. I think it's not. I don't want to set myself only as a South African filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker who, even my family. I'm originally from South Africa. My wife's originally from Russia, so I speak Afrikaans. Die taal wat ek nou praat. Ja, Uchu Paruski, so I speak a little bit Russian, and obviously now I'm learning American English. So some words you guys say different. You don't say water, you say water. So things like that. The language is another element that you can bring into your story that creates a world on its own.
Mhm. Yeah, no, really well said. And yeah, that's amazing. Like to, for you to, not that you're like labeling yourself per se, but I love like how you are expanding towards like being an international filmmaker instead of like being secluded to like one space, and also how you're picking up like these elements or kind of like these, well, elements, themes, but also like characteristics of like, different types of film that like we're
Mm,
exposed to, and, putting it into your art or even into your project. So I
yeah,
love that because I mean, even as I've been involved more like with DCIFF and the festival itself, like I love seeing like the different like styles and how it's incorporated. And, ultimately that's what it comes down to for indie
yeah,
filmmakers too, is just having that different lens, that different perspective, culturally or visually
yeah,
perspective. So, and for
completely.
yeah, and particularly I've seen, just in the film festival circuit itself, like, more South African films like up and coming. Like I know we had like God is the Devil, like that was one film that was really, successful at our festival itself. And then there's also Sons of the Sea, I think. But like Spelunk is something like very different. And so that's what
Yeah.
I think I really, appreciate, like, about your film too, and also, like, being able to see it, just kinda, like, immersing into a world that may seem familiar, but it's not, but also could be reality.
Yeah, I think that's the fun part of being an artist in this era is like I can go back to the old spaghetti westerns and I can go back to those things and see how people made films with much less resources and technology. Now I see in countries like I've done master classes in Kenya, and then I work with these students and give them a really good cell phone and say, show me what you can do. And in the week, they got something together. I'm like, wow, you create like a magic fantasy story in your backyard, in your space. And it's just challenging people with the type of stories that can be made. So around the world, I've did one of my honors theses, and I don't want to lecture you on all kinds of theories and things, but just how specific industries such as Hollywood came to rise, and obviously the power they have. Around the world, you'll go to a cinema and you'll see 7 out of 10 movies is American movies, and people grow up with this. But when you start exposing yourself and you see a really good Dutch film and you see a really good, and a lot of times they don't have the same resources, but you see the quality of work.
Mhm.
Like you see a film like Hoe duur was de suiker, How Expensive is the Sugar, Dutch film, or Bride's Flight, and you're like, whoa, these stories are, and it's for their own audience. It doesn't travel necessarily as well internationally, but you see these stories and you're like, wow, that is art really well. So that's always exciting when you get to see that level of artistry being pushed. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that you actually just sparked another question, which was around, the visuals. Like, did you use more like practical effects or like was there CGI like involved to bring this world in Spelunk to life?
A very combined thing. So I love older films like Blade Runner, where they build mini sets. So for this film, we did a lot of that. We definitely combined like the use of real, I call it real, but like we have mini scales. We had a lot of where we film on real sets, a lot of real. I tried to do as much practical. So if you see someone jumping out of a two-story building in the film, they really jumped out of a two-story building. We had parkour artists in our choice of, and that's what made it exciting. So if I wanted to do it as a commercial film, the choice of cast and things would have been based on what who currently sells. So you might end up, for example, in a setting like South Africa, having actors who are well known in soaps, actors who are well known for romantic comedy and love stories. And we wanted to have people that can really fight, people that can do Krav Maga, people. So even the person, Anton, who was teaching the actors close combat, he's a close combat specialist who's trained with people such as the Spesmak in Israel. Sorry if you see the power going on and off. We have snowstorm in the area we are now.
Oh no.
So that's kind of what you'll be seeing a little bit of. Yeah, so we wanted to do it as real as possible. So with the type of setting, with the type of fighting, we wanted people to really jump. We wanted real swords. So we have everything that you see was handmade. Every costume, all the styles. We wanted to really push what we can do in camera. So most of what you see is done in camera. And then we have a few obviously added on elements that we brought in with VFX eventually.
Hmm. So cool. And yeah, having as much, how can I say it, like realistic. I mean, it is realistic, but like real things to bring to light is such amazing to hear that. So wow, that's cool. And I'm sorry about the snowstorm that's
No, I think
happening
it's
going
all
on
across
too.
the US. It's exciting. It's a interesting time always. So luckily I have internet so wherever we are, so that's good.
Oh yes, true. Now I'm like, is snow gonna come my way? But yeah, no, that's awesome. And one of the things, I guess, like without giving too much away, like in the question that I'm about to ask is, but like if you lived in the world of Spelunk, what type of character would you be?
That's a difficult one. I mean, I love like the characters I like seeing. It's obviously the almost like Clint Eastwood bounty hunter character who goes on a journey and you kind of believe he's a little bad, but he's not bad. There's something more to the eye. That's the type of character that I like exploring. I think there's more, even like a Kill Bill movie. There's always more to these characters that you perceive as a little bit darker, but there's more to them. There's always a little bit of mystery. If you ask me what type of character I would personally be, that's very difficult, but it will probably be like one of these epic underdog eventual heroes that takes you on a journey. You have a few cool skills and tricks up his sleeve. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. Like I definitely am for the underdog and knowing have watching the film too. I completely understand what you mean and I encourage everyone to come out and see it for DCIFF. And so Thank you so much, Desmond, for chatting with us today. Is there anything that I may have not asked or that we had talked about on the podcast that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think maybe something is just obviously the incredible cast and crew that's been involved. So a lot of the actors, when we made it, they were upcoming. So a
Mhm.
lot of the actors like Jenny Umbo, Greg Crick, Scott Cooper, they were still residing in South Africa and has ever since moved to LA. So for example, Greg Crick is well known, Oscar nominated. He's won a lot of international awards. Scott has seen a lot of films, and the two of them is also based in the LA. Jenny, who's in Warrior, the Bruce Lee movie, one of the main actors, just there. And these are people that when I worked with them on different projects, and the same as the crew, we loved all making stories. And we said, well, let's venture together and do something crazy. Let's make a South African sci-fi apocalyptic film that was at that stage unheard of. We facilitate international films, whether it is Mad Max that we, like a lot of the crew and cast were involved in, or Raised by Wolves, but to do our own creative story that is South African cast and crew, we were like, yeah, we're going to do that. It's a difficult thing. It's crazy, but we've all done that for other people. So it was so exciting to come and say, well, let's tell our story. And just to see all these people go so far and doing such amazing things. And now for this film to play at DCIFF, it's very exciting. So I'm definitely encouraging people to Google these actors and these, just see the amazing work they're doing and come see the story yourself, and you'll see a little bit of their origin story.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, it's such a good plug too, like, for having, all these like Oscar nominated like actors that are in your film too, and to be able to bring your vision to light and so much more. So I can't wait to, continue to encourage everyone to come see this film. It truly is exciting and, in some ways how it could be like realistic. So but yeah, no, very awesome. And yeah, so please come and check out Spelunk. That will be showcased on Saturday, February 15th at 8:15 p.m. at the Regal Gallery Place. So yeah, looking forward to
Appreciate it.
it and for having you and as well as all of us joining or everyone joining us for the festival itself. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
This podcast is brought to you by the DCIFF supporters. We could not be here without all of you to be sharing this amazing outlet with filmmakers from around the world. If you are interested in supporting DCIFF, head on over to our website through the link description in the bio of this episode, or you can go right to the website, which is DCIFF-INDIE.org, to connect with us and learn more about our Future of Film programs, our festival, and also more educational opportunities in what we do with our high school students, community, and beyond. We look forward to your support.